I feel like an imposter. Sadly, I know there are many others who feel the same way I do because we didn't start our careers in the classroom immediately following college. Yes, I feel like an imposter amongst my educator colleagues. It wasn't until later in my life that I found my calling. I graduated from Central Washington University 15 years after I began. I went back to school to finish my degree and began my journey to become a teacher. I completed my Bachelor's of Science degree in 2017, which opened the door, giving me the opportunity to step foot into the classroom, which is how I found my passion. You see, I thought that if I became a teacher, I would be satisfied. That has not been the case. Newly hired, and you don't know what you don't know, I started exploring my new professional field of academia. I was hired as a CTE teacher, meaning career and technical education. CTE is defined as training for student-specific occupations in agriculture, trade, and industry through theoretical teaching and practical experiences. CTE highlights unique hands-on learning experiences by the way of exploratory and preparatory classes, which differ from traditional and university-based education. Being a part of the CTE world, we are what is considered as the alternative route to education. It's through this pathway many earn their initial certifications to be a licensed teacher. You might be thinking alternative. That has a negative connotation to it. However, just by saying alternative, it is frowned on because we aren't a normal teacher. Let me tell you though, we are a real teacher. CTE teachers are career switchers and considered experts from the industry to the classroom. Our profession is compressed into 16 career clusters that apply to different high-demand careers for students to choose from as electives in middle and high school, such as robotics, computer science, photography, animation, Microsoft Office, woodshop, welding, automotive, agriculture, and many more. Yes, we're finally called experts, but we're given no formal training on how to become a teacher. Did you know that an individual who becomes a career switcher to education only lasts on average 5 years in the classroom? Talk about teacher burnout. Those who did not go to school to become a teacher are given minimal support by their districts. We are given block courses to take that are either one Saturday a month for 2 years while being able to work in the classroom, or take the fast track path to completing it in 1 year while working in the classroom as well. Consider it as an AA meeting for teachers. Districts are able to send CTE teachers to 1, or if you're lucky, 2 conferences yearly if they are on their yearly budget. What if, though, you were newly hired and you were not given an opportunity to attend any conferences, nor were you given any curriculum or resources? Remember, you're the expert. You should know what to do. Oh, and on top of it, you're a singleton too. A singleton means you teach one class nobody else in the building teaches, and we mostly juggle multiple singleton preps classes throughout the day. There are many who have never been part of a district training and professional development designed for CTE teachers, which target our curriculum. Talk about being overloaded and now isolated. What I just described to you is, unfortunately, very common within the CTE world. Traditional teachers who followed a university route to certification are taught the foundations of education. They experience student teaching to learn about firsthand classroom management experience with the guidance of a master teacher. They're also taught key terminology such as pedagogy, that means strategies, and other words as assessments, frameworks, pacing guides, standards, objectives, learning targets, success criteria, CERs, that stands for claim, evidence, and response. How about Bloom's taxonomy, project-based learning, TPEP, standard-based grading? In addition to this, CTE teachers must keep track of their V codes and SIP codes for their individual certification. Are you feeling overwhelmed yet? This is just a small example of how a new CTE teacher can feel like an imposter in the education system. We aren't a normal teacher, yet we are held to the same high standards of a distinguished teacher who has spent years in the classroom perfecting their craft. Throughout my 4 years in the classroom as a CTE teacher, I have had to take charge of my own learning. From finishing my Bachelor's of Science degree in 2017, allowing me to step foot into the classroom, then I discovered I needed to go back to school to earn my master's degree in my CTE field of Family and Consumer Sciences education with a teaching certificate. This field of study is the only CTE program in which you must hold a degree in human services, such as health, early childhood education, nutrition. There are many others. But once you have this degree, it's like the Willy Wonkas of golden tickets for V codes, which is our certification. Perhaps you're wondering, what is Family Consumer Sciences? Well, it was your parents' home economics class, or as I like to now say, Adulting 101. We teach kids how to cook and various aspects of nutrition. How about sewing on a button and mending clothes? How to take care of young children through the developmental stages. We even talk about shaken baby syndrome, domestic violence, and sexual health. How about financial literacy? Yes, we teach kids the differences between banks and credit unions and how to set up and balance their accounts. You see, Family and Consumer Sciences took over the name Home Economics back in 1996. So it never went away. It just adapted to the future of education and where our students are going. But our classes, though, have been scaled back to becoming electives instead of mandatory classes. No longer are our classes mandatory, but we now have to promote our classes, hoping that your child will choose my class while competing against other valuable course electives. With that brief history lesson, I decided in January of 2018 that I would go back to school and earn my master's degree. My goal was to finish before I turned 40 years old. I'm proud to share that I finished this goal August 18th, 2020, 1 month and 17 days before I turned 40 years old. You can do anything once you set your mind to it. 6 months prior to completion, I needed to have an accumulating project within my content area. I was struggling. What can I do to highlight my field? I stewed for several days. Then a friend posted online about a project that she'd been very quiet about until then, a podcast. Her first episode was the spark that ignited the fire. I immediately researched whether there were any podcasts to support family consumer sciences teachers. I learned there were no podcasts for us. Well, there is one, but it's directed towards PhD research rather than middle and high school teachers. It was from there that I set out to develop a podcast showcasing best practices and resources for family consumer sciences teachers. I wanted to create a podcast that I needed when I first stepped foot into the classroom, and I still need today. We all need help and inspiration for new ideas, turning decent classroom assignments into meaningful and engaging projects showcasing their knowledge and overall growth towards standard. Having a community space to share resources which will also help avoid isolation. You see, I was hired the first time I was hired on 1 month into the school year already, and I had no background knowledge. I was directed towards a file cabinet full of assignments. I had no idea how I had access to textbooks either, or even a mentor who taught the same thing I was hired to teach. All I knew was how to navigate the internet, searching websites for creative and innovative lessons to apply in my classroom in hopes for high student engagement. Searching the internet takes time. Posting questions on community threads, hoping someone will reply to suggestions, is time-consuming and demoralizing when nobody responds. A growing number of individuals are listening and learning from podcasts daily. The wealth of information shared on audio, video, podcasts, and webinars allow listeners to learn about resources and information to enhance their teaching pedagogy and network communities together in recruitment for new educators and the retainment for current professionals. Podcasting is a social media tool that is gaining in popularity, and it's a great resource for professional development. So from my research, I decided to reach out to my friend who shared her podcast media resource. From February 2020 to May 2020, the Connect FCS Ed podcast was born. During COVID, no less. It has been proven that educators who do not experience effective professional development do not improve their skills, and student learning suffers. And qualified teachers quit because they don't feel supported. My FCS podcast is about sharing impactful stories and content with its audiences. The purpose of the Connect FCS Ed is to network communities of people together who offer different perspectives, ideas, solutions that we may not always have access to through in-person connections. Teaching can be an isolating job, especially now during remote or blended learning schedules. And now, educators have even fewer opportunities to enjoy the empowerment of collaboration. The Connect FCS Ed podcast is to support educators by sharing strategies and resources for transforming teaching and creating unforgettable learning experiences in the classroom. Any listener of the Connect FCS Ed podcast can easily fit a burst of pedagogical enrichment into their busy schedules, while being exposed to various topics such as strategies and activities that are developmental and have a focus on content area curriculum, which is relevant to educators all the while folding laundry, grocery shopping, driving, or lesson planning. The Connect FCS Ed has become a credible source of information highlighting best practices and innovative thinking about instruction and the abundance of resources that are available. We just need to know where to look or ask. Almost every person I have interviewed on the Connect FCS Ed podcast has had their own wayward journey into the FCS classroom. and have all shared similar feelings of isolation and overloaded with responsibility. From the infancy of Connect FCS Ed podcast, my vision has been to network as many FCS educators together across the globe, helping them feel like they are a part of a strong and passionate community of knowledgeable educators who want to share their wisdom, lessons, and resources, stories, as well as create awareness for FCS as a profession in the recruitment and retainment of our current and future educational leaders. We all have something valuable to share, and there are many others who want to listen. You just need to be brave enough to step up to the mic. Though I may always feel like an imposter in my profession, I have learned to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. I have become more confident in my boldness to pursue relevant professional development that I am passionate about, which is the essential key for me and the vitality for all FCS programs, national and worldwide. Through this resiliency, here are a few things I've discovered on my journey. Lean on your colleagues. As a new teacher, both starting my career and moving schools, I've leaned heavily on my building professionals by asking questions and observing master teachers demonstrate multiple instructional strategies, giving me new ideas how to bring back to my own classroom. Lean on your professional community for support. This gives us all the ability to learn from one another. Build a network. There is never a better time for teachers to create their own professional learning community. With the multiple social media platforms available for today's modern educator, we are no longer limited geographically. We can collaborate digitally, transforming our teaching practices, share insights from their teaching experiences, and engage in collective problem solving. Social media allows us to connect not only to those we know, but also those we don't. We can share links, comment on educational research, debate, collaborate, and create new knowledge with individuals no matter where they live or work. Continued education. The best educators keep learning. When teachers pursue higher education, they are learning better ways to teach, discover new teaching strategies, and implement new project-based learning activities. I've discovered that continued education gives teachers the opportunity to step out of their routine and to receive the help that they need to become better teachers and the experience to become effective future leaders for tomorrow. My name is Barbara Scully, and I am the founder of Connect FCS Ed podcast and lead CTE Consulting. I believe in the power of collaboration and delivering meaningful professional development that benefits all instruction to ensure student learning does not suffer and builds and renews passion in CTE teachers. Educational leaders aren't born, they're built.